Alright, game turn 8, the third week of August. I should note a couple of corrections that I've made here. I don't think the rifle army in Tula actually had the movement allowance to make it all the way down to that hex by the river 3608, so I've rearranged these units here. The Soviet player also actually received a cavalry corps. I forgot to roll for it that turn. We've placed it in that fortification in the forest outside of Moscow. And they actually received another one this turn. I finished a German movement and Soviet placement. You can see it's kind of hidden back there. So here's a look at the board as it stands. Mainly a lot of shuffling of units gearing up for the next turn. You can see I've only placed a couple of battle cubes. Over here, the left flank, we've moved, starting to maneuver the 365 infantry corps up and around to try to cut supply lines to that hex before attacking. We moved units up toward Kalinin in hopes of, in a future turn, cutting supply lines and start working on taking over that city hex. But during the replacement phase, the Soviet player was able to spend a point to place a rifle army in the supply source, which they can do even though it's an enemy in an enemy's op, that as long as they end their movement there. So it's going to be harder for these units to cut supply lines to that hex. Over here, gearing up for an attack against an engineer army stacked with an untried rifle army in the forest. We've got it pinned, so we will be able to take advantage of a concentric attack bonus, but supply lines, enemy zones of control are suppressed in terms of supply line tracing by that shock army and the fortification adjacent to it. I'm not sure if I'm using these terms correctly. For that reason, we were going to use the ground support aircraft in that battle, especially since this target was on its reduced strength side, but the Soviet player decided to replenish, spending an elite replacement point back to its full strength side. So we'll probably be using aircraft there. And not engaging here, holding there. And down here we've shuffled a lot of these units around, holding off though on an attack into Kaluga, and probably not going to be doing much down here for a little while. Probably what we're going to do is try to see if we can do something, at least force this elite mechanized Soviet army to retreat if we can, to open up a path to start cutting supply lines to this city before attacking. So we've placed units so that they have easy access. Turn 9, the last week of August. Here is a look at the dead pile, to which we are adding a rifle army that had a defense factor of 1, combat strength of 4, an elite mechanized army, and an engineer army. Here's a look at the board before we get into the German turn. Key locations to update you on over here. After a couple of successful battles by the Germans, it's looking like Klein is very much in danger of falling under German control, possibly even during this coming combat phase. We had this up here. Kalinin is looking to be in a little bit of a better situation, especially if they can manage to hold on to this supply source. And then down here, toward Kaluga and Tula, things will probably be a little bit more quiet down here for the coming turn, possibly too, as the Germans focus in around in this area, possibly in that forest. We'll see. I'm feeling like the German units are too spread out and focusing, trying to too much to multitask, and should group together and figure out a way to effectively break through this area here toward Moscow. We'll see. Again, they don't necessarily need to control any of the city hexes in Moscow to win the game. If they can manage to do so with these single hex cities, of which there are 9, and hold on to them through the end of game turn 20, then that is enough for them to win the game. Okay, so we chose a move fight sequence again as the Germans, and we're planning on making 5 attacks over here. I think this is a better angle. Just taking advantage of good opportunities. Those units, those rifle armies, are tying up our units, threatening Rezev, just kind of annoying. So we're dealing with that. Over here we have, we're gearing up for a future attack into the supply source outside of Kalinin before attempting to take over the city itself. Here we were able to pin this shock army on the left. It is in fortification in the forest, that's intact, but and we don't get a concentric bonus attack, but supply lines are cut to that hex. Another attack against this other shock army outside of Clean with the 2-5 strength panzer corps. This Romanian Axis satellite army waiting for the party to end and to move into that city hex while the other units work on other areas of the map. Here, an attack with a 4-strength panzer corps, but the target is a cavalry corps in clear terrain, so, and they're defending with 1, so it's 4-1. We'll make that attack. Otherwise, here those units are stacked. They're in the forest. We're gonna hold off, hold off, hold off, hold off. We've arranged rearranged units here as we were planning to do, and although we haven't, we're not cutting supply lines or making a concentric attack, we're still targeting that mechanized army in the forest before maybe splitting up, working up and down to grab these cities and start making our way maybe into Moscow, taking advantage of the fact that there aren't very many units in the capital itself or right outside of it, at least not yet. I had to hit the record button because we have our first Soviet attack, and probably too little too late, although I just didn't feel comfortable up to this point. For example, you can see that I'm largely, entirely ignoring Rezev, and I don't quite want to risk that, and I feel like those units on the northern flank are more useful tying up the German units than they are actually in combat against a supplied German-controlled city. I should also mention that after the German movement we received, as a Soviet player, a couple of rifle armies in Moscow, and this elite unit with a defense factor modifier of +2 in Tula. The attack in this forest against this elite army, Soviet mechanized army, was successful, a DR result. The German units pursued, and now the 6-5-10 is positioned in such a way that it can cross this river and help cut supply lines to Kalaga in the coming turn. So we're gonna focus on trying to do what we can to hold Tula, and we'll continue to do the same in Kalinin. and cross our fingers about clean, but I have a feeling that unit won't be there at this time next turn. And then of course trying to really fill up these hexes in and around Moscow. Alright, game turn 10. The first week of September, we finished German movement and Soviet placement. Things are really starting to break down around in this area. We are about to enter German combat, and we're planning on 3, possibly 4 attacks. First, an attack down here, where we've tentatively placed this ground support aircraft marker, where we will be attacking with a 3 strength and 6 strength unit. They're defending there with a modifier of +2 in the forest. However, this was the unit that came up from Tula in an effort to guard Kaluga from these panzer corps, but it's had to cross the river in order to do so. We're hoping, we'll see what happens. If need be, they can use this here, but if they happen to roll low when determining the defense factor there, then we can use this ground support aircraft up there for an attack into the supply source outside of Kalinin, which is a weaker attack, a 2 and a 3 strength unit. And they're defending there with an engineer army stacked with an untried rifle army, but we're hoping to at least really just get a defender retreats to push them out of the supply source and start cutting supply lines to Kalinin. And then over here you can see that we've cut supply lines to clean. We're about to make a major attack there with 3 units, 2 5s and a 2 strength German mechanized corps. And then over here we've moved forward and have occupied 4 of the 6 surrounding hexes, mostly across the river though, and targeting an intact fortification in clear terrain. I always forget to mention, the Soviet player received a rifle army in Tula, a reduced strength shock army in Moscow, and a cavalry corps on a roll of 1, placed in this supply source here. Here's our first attack, and I actually kind of want to do this on camera. So we haven't decided if we're using our ground support aircraft there yet, and what we're first going to do is determine actually with what strength they're defending in that forest. We roll a 3, +2 is a 5, and we're attacking. Our total combat strength is 9, 3 + 6. 9 to 5, that's 1 to 1 actually, and it would shift down to the 1 to 2 column. And that's not good. And that was not the example that I wanted to give. I was hoping for something a little more interesting. We're going to add 5 to our attack. So 5, 14, 14 to 5, 2 to 1, shifting down to the 1 to 1 column. And we roll a 4 on that. Attack stalled. So we spent this, but nothing happened. So that means that I think we're going to hold off on our attack up by Kalinin. So I'll remove that cube. So that ends German combat. We're entering Soviet combat. And it's possible. Definitely gonna make at least 1 attack, either in concert or 2 separate attacks, and I'm talking about down in this area here. I think, well, we have 2 Stavka markers. We can, for example, attack in concert here and double both of these units' attack factors. Okay, so let's resolve this since we're here already. Now, during German combat, this unit, its supply lines were actually able to be traced through these units here. So we did that right. I just want to make sure that we take into account all of these, all of the various elements here. Here, though, we have a concentric attack bonus, but since for the Soviet player it's actually only a single right shift, whereas for the Germans you get 2 shifts, as if they needed it, but that's what they get. So, we are going to, first of all, figure out with what combat strength we're attacking. This guy, 2, okay. And then this guy up here, 3. Okay, so 10. 10 to 5 is 2 to 1, shifting down once for the forest and up once, for the concentric attack bonus to the 2 to 1 column. And we get a 1 on the 2 to 1. Defender eliminated. Okay, so we're gonna roll and have it. We roll a 2. Okay, so they lose a single step. Not great. That should have gone a lot better than that, but we'll take it. And I do believe that that is the only attack we're making. Turn 11, the second week of September. I've chosen a fight move sequence for the Germans this turn, so they'll be receiving 2 right shifts for all attacks. We've placed 5 cubes on the board. And let's see, first one over here, attacking with 3 units. 1 is across the river. And up here, we're gonna go for it, although we have no idea what strength that untried rifle army is underneath that engineer army that has a defense factor of 2, so we'll see how it goes, but we want to start making our way up and around. We have another attack here, a little bit risky as well, but we're going for it here as well. And down here, which is kind of where most of the action is at the moment, back and forth, we're attacking this guy again. Alright, I've finished German movement, and we're getting ready to enter Soviet combat. We were able to finally release, well, we could have done so earlier I suppose, but we released a couple of the units that were busy up in that left flank, making their way over towards the center of the board. 4 units here, preparing to make an attack into Kalinin, starting to cut supply lines there. And looks like we have a future attack here as well. However, that actually is stacked. That cavalry corps is stacked with a full-strength mechanized Soviet army, I think. Here, gearing up for an attack there come the next German combat phase. And Soviet players placed a rifle army in Moscow. And for their second elite replacement point, they replenished that unit outside of Kaluga. And so you can see that they're going to make another attempt here. Hopefully, it wasn't too bad, 1 step loss, but I think they can do better. So they're going to do that. A cavalry corps moved up here, but I'm actually wondering, a little worried about this opening that's going to result at the end of the next German combat phase. And they would be able to rush through this clear terrain and make their way up and around kind of the back door to Moscow. So I think what we'll do instead is start placing units along this river up there. I keep saying this and then not doing it. So let's go ahead and resolve this because these are kind of fun. Down here, determining their attack factor. We roll a 5, times 2 is 10. Over here, we roll a 6. Okay, perfect. So that is 12, 22. 22, they're defending with 4. So, and on top of that we get, you know, a shift of 1 column shift for concentric attack. So that brings us to 6 to 1. And back down to 5 to 1 because they're defending in the forest. We roll a 2, 5 to 1, defender eliminated. Rolling to see number of steps lost. And what do we get? We roll a 2, okay. All that, and they lose a single step. Alright, here's the board as we enter game turn 12, the 3rd week of September, when we start rolling to determine weather. And let's see. We roll a 2. Weather conditions continue to be dry. On a 6 it would have been rain. So move that down. Alright, so the Germans picked a move fight sequences turn and are planning on conducting 6 attacks, 6 separate battles. One over here, outside of that city that I shall not pronounce, although I have multiple times, it's embarrassing. Looking good for an attack into Kalinin. I'm gonna hold off on this attack against that stacked unit, and instead do this attack here with the 466. So that'll be on the 1-to-1 table after the shift. Hopefully that unit can advance a couple of hexes. This attack down here, 3 units into an intact fortification. 1 or 2 of them can help secure this opening left by the 466 advance. Attack here. These are both into intact fortifications, we'll see what happens. And then this down here. Still working on it, sticking to the plan. Even though this 3rd Panzer Corps been stuck in a pickle, but we'll see what happens. Here, let's do this on camera. They are defending with 2 plus 2 is 4. We're attacking with 2 4s and a 2 with 10. So yeah, we're going to spend this ground support aircraft and add 3. So that brings us to 13 to 4. Alright, so that's 3 to 1, shifting down to the 2 to 1 column. And we got a 3 on the 2 to 1. Defender retreats. Yeah, that's not great, but we'll take it. This unit actually suppresses this enemy zone of control in terms of supply line tracing. So this, even though there are 4 units surrounding it, is still in supply in this direction. Let's do these on camera. So let's resolve that first here. So that was 4 to 2 on the 1 to 1 after the shift. We roll a 4 and we got attack stalled. Alright, so that didn't work out as planned, that's fine. We'll go ahead and do this though. They're defending with 4. Wow. Okay, so we're at 17. 4 to 1, shifting down to the 2 to 1. And we get a 4 on the 2 to 1, defender retreats. You know what? This unit has no retreat path. So, it's actually eliminated. I've run out of control markers, so I've taken a few off the board here. Let's see. Now down here, attacking with 5 and 5. They're defending with 2, 10 to 2, 5 to 1, 3 to 1. We got a 1. 1 on the 3 to 1 is defender eliminated. Running out of these control markers. Start taking these. Alright, here's the board at the end of Soviet turn 12. No combat occurred. As far as movement, well, no movement here. But I want to point out that I don't think that German Panzer Corps is needed any longer in that city. And I don't think he even needs to wait for that rifle army to be revealed before he makes his way toward Moscow to participate in that siege. Up here, their engines are revving, ready to run across here, shoot across, up and around, across this river, down here if possible. Looking bad for the Soviet player over here. We replenished the shock army, and just assuming that that rifle army with the 3 adjacent German units is going to be eliminated. These units, it's tough, it's really tough because they can advance 2 hexes and don't have a lot of buffer there. Too little, too late, I guess, is the moral of the story here as I play the Russians. Here we have a couple of elite mechanized armies in the forest. A very thin line, but we'll see if they can hold. It just feels like there are not enough reinforcements, not enough replacements for the Soviet player. Down here, looking a little better, but I don't know. They have that river there to protect, to help defend. So let's hope that river. Let's hope that they roll high for this unit. Let's hope that that unit revealed is a strong one. I mean, so much of it is by chance. And we have stacked a Soviet mechanized cavalry corps. They are there with another untried rifle army. So that's pretty much it. I think I'll go ahead and upload this.